All right. Well, welcome everybody
Hey.
to our Growth U webinar with the amazing Laura Masters. Today's webinar is Improving Your Life. It's a couple little tidbits to help us get through this crazy time that we're all going through right now and all the stuff that's happening. And my son always manages to do that right at the right time. Do you want to message him and just tell him we're busy? And so, yeah, through this busy time, this stressful time, maybe that some people are feeling stress, and what can we do to sort of move through that? And I want to introduce Laura Masters because she has a long resume. She has been in the educating world for over 30 years. She's a corporate coach at Bravely. She's a certified master life coach with MBIT, and we're going to talk a little bit about MBIT and M-braining and maybe even what that MBIT acronym means for those of you that aren't sure. And she's also a certified master coach and learning specialist, and she's a teacher. And is still a teacher. And she's coming to us from Napa Valley, but there is a Canadian connection here. She actually grew up in Canada and went to U of A, and but then settled and raised two amazing children in the Napa Valley, and that's where she currently works. And we're super excited because she's coming up to visit us to do a little course, which we might speak a little about towards the end. But Laura, I want to turn it over to you and just give you the opportunity to talk about MBIT and M-braining so people have a bit of understanding, and then we'll pull up one of our cycle of growth models and speak to that and how people can apply that to their current life situation and really allow themselves to relax a little bit more with all the stuff that's happening. So Laura, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Paul. Well, I think one of the things that I love the most about M-braining is that it really allows us to have a significant plethora of tools to go inward to access our own wisdom and to learn how to rely on ourselves instead of the outer world for our own sense of comfort and safety and well-being. And so it kind of came around the M is for multiple, and the braining is because science has truly proven that we have a complete functioning brain in our head and in our heart and in our gut. And so the two awesome characters who put together the M-braining book took a lot of research from a number of divergent sources and kept coming back to the same convergent ideas, that each one of our brains has kind of a specialty that they're really good at, and that they can work together if we really help them do that. And so they developed the MBIT suite of tools. The little m again is multiple, for brain integration techniques. And so it's about a suite of tools to really access all the wisdom from our head, heart, and gut. So in a little nutshell, the head brain, I'm sure you're not surprised to hear, is really, really good at, the CEO, making plans, working with words, talking to us, giving us lots of ideas and being very, very creative, kind of the CEO of our lives. And the other thing that it's really good at is really receiving and accessing all of the sensory information that we take in our world through, which, of course, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, all of it is right here, right near the head brain. But the trickier thing that the head brain does is it tends to want to make meaning or make sense out of everything that happens in the world. And this is where it can be a little wily and a little tricky, because we make sense out of things by drawing on our life's experiences and things that we've been going on and the patterns that we were given and what we learned from society and all of that. And so that's why
a lot of past references.
Right, exactly, right? Right. And so that's how we interpret our world. So we can all look at the same thing, like a child screaming in a shopping basket in a Safeway. And half the people are going, oh, wow, look at her. She's just letting him be. That's so great. And the other people, or my child, I'd be like taking him home. And who is she to even bring a kid to the grocery store? And we're all making meaning out of the same events going on in our lives and in the world with the frame of reference that we bring to it. And the heart brain is really, really good at all of the things you can just absolutely predict, which is emotions and feelings. It's about relationships. And it stores our values and our moral code and the the ideas that we wish to live by. It's our definite value center. And then down in our gut, that's where it holds our deepest sense of our identity. And our gut takes complete, beautiful care of our safety. And it's also where we get our motivation or our action from. Like we take gut action on things, right? And so if you can imagine, these guys found that this went to almost every area of study that they looked at. And they said, well, if we know that, how do we communicate with them and how do we get them to get along? And so they developed a roadmap. It's kind of, if you can imagine, just having 3 different people up at the executive table trying to make decisions for you every day. They're all there to take care of the part that they're really good at. And they don't always agree and they don't always get along. And sometimes they'll block each other and sometimes there's some conflict. And so what Grant and Marvin did in the embraining is they developed a whole bunch of techniques on learning how to communicate beautifully with the head, with the heart, and with the gut. And they're all different. And then when we've got all that information on the table and we know what everybody wants from our internal, like personal wisdom that we have deep inside, our intuition, then we go, well, what would the heart need from the head for that to work? What would the heart need from the gut? What would the gut need the head to be able to do? And when we develop all that slowly over time, the most amazing thing that happens is we wire beautiful communication in to each of our neural centers. And then we help them wire communication pathways between all of them. And then as we go up the levels of learning, eventually you end up living your life in such beautiful flow because they're communicating on an unconscious level. And all that tedious decision making that you used to have to go, should I do this first or should I do that? Maybe I'll have breakfast. I don't know. And all that stuff just doesn't happen because they're doing all that communication behind the scenes. And so it really helps us just really live our lives moment to moment, just finding out that we can really live our beautiful truth, our authentic selves in a seamless way that really makes our life express us and then bring everything that we want to us and really create the most beautiful life that we want to live. So that's what embraining does.
Well,
And
thank you for
the
that.
most fun coaching that you could ever do. So.
Well, and for those of you watching this either live, Laura and Denise, or on replay, you can see why the alignment between MBIT or embraining and Growth U aligns so well, because really what we do at Growth U is we build those neural pathways that Laura was just talking about within the realm of the brain, the heart, and the gut. And we know that when we do that consistently over time, that pathway is now open, to Laura's point, where it now happens naturally. It becomes part of our identity that lives in the gut, but also the heart is, checking in and the brain is checking in. And so when that alignment all fits, we feel it's like the weight off our shoulders just comes off and we live in a much easier realm, so to speak.
Yeah.
So,
And you feel like you're all in all the time on everything that you're doing instead of wondering and tentative and checking and having all those second guessing and the inner critic really ruling your life. It just helps you really get clear.
Yeah. Well, and for those of you who are psychology geeks like myself, I was a high school psychology teacher for 17 years, and I used to speak about the brain, the heart, the gut to my psychology classes, and really diving into MBIT and having had Laura have a session with Laura. I really wish I had even more knowledge when I was teaching about this to give to my students, but it's never too late. You can always check in and check it out. So before we speak about what's upcoming, I was going to pull up the cycle of growth,
Which is phenomenal.
So speak to that and how kind of this fits in with what you were just speaking to. And so if everybody can see that on their screen, we have the cycle of growth, and I'll run through it quickly, Laura, and then hand it off to you, and you can sort of apply the embraining into this. So what we know is when somebody, I think the easiest example is that New Year's resolution. When somebody comes up and says, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z on January 1st, and they're all in and they get it. And their CEO, to use Laura speak, their CEO says, yeah, we're doing this. that we call that Inception. They're excited. They're like, January 1st, I'm going to quit drinking. I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to eat healthier, whatever that looks like, you know, to that individual. So they're pumped. They're in Inception. And what we call that when they're in Inception is that they're unconsciously incompetent. They don't know what they don't know because their CEO, their captain, I call the prefrontal cortex our captain. That's a little voice in our head. You know, he says, we're going to do this. And ultimately, the unconscious brain, which lives just underneath the captain, will pop in and say, okay, just try it, see what happens. That's not going to work. And so, but the Inception, we're excited. So our attitude's high, our competence is unconsciously incompetent, as I spoke to, and our effort is high. We're all in. Fast forward 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days. I think January 9th or 10th is National Quitters Day, is when deception officially like hits. And so that deception, or sometimes we refer to it as resistance, that's where the unconscious brain comes in and says, see, I told you this is way too hard. We can't do this. And the conscious brain's like, oh, man, maybe you're right. And so at that point, that's when most people quit. Having knowledge of what's going to come, because everybody hits it. Everybody will hit deception or resistance. It's science-based. This is not imaginary. When we have people go through our Growth U programs on day 8, 9, 10, when we speak about deception or resistance, we'll get text messages like, how did you read my mind? How did you know what was happening right now? Like, what is this voodoo that you guys do? And we're like, it's just science. So what we know is if we can move through deception, if we don't give up, if we're like, we have a really strong, powerful purpose, why, vision, you know, that maybe we have an accountability group that we're sticking to, and we're like, no, we're going to move through this. Like, I'm not quitting. And then if we keep going, we move into what we call transformation, which is where we're consciously competent. Our attitude fluctuates. Sometimes we're still like in that Inception phase, and sometimes we're like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this. But we know that we know what we know now. We know that it's hard work and we have to keep going. Our effort now is still high. It's gone from low now back to high. And what we know is that, like a skateboard ramp, we can go from transformation back into deception really easily. And if we stay in transformation long enough, 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, we now move into that identity where now we've built a new neural pathway to support whatever that vision was that we had, whether it's quitting drinking or eating healthier or dropping some weight, whatever that looks like. That now becomes our new identity. And what we know in our new identity is now we're unconsciously competent. It's like being able to drive a car. If you think back to when you were 16, 14, 15, 16 years old, depending on when you got your license, we were, you know, unconsciously incompetent. We were super excited to get that license, but, you know, all of a sudden it became much harder to, when we actually got behind the wheel, it was kind of scary. And now we just drive around. We don't even think. We end up in places where like, how did I get here? Right? What? That's like a talking head song. This is my beautiful life. How did I get here? So that identity piece, when we know we've hit identity, is when you wake up in the morning and you don't want to do whatever it is that you've now created that new identity to. And you're like, no, I got to do it because that's my identity. And you show up anyways, even when you don't want to. So whether like going to the gym, you wake up, you're like, I'm so tired, but it's like, nope, got to go. It's my identity. It's who I am. So that is from a Growth U perspective. And so Laura, I'm going to throw it over to you and just talk about how the M-braining overlays on top of this and your thoughts on this. So what have you got for us?
Yeah, thank you. So I love this model, by the way, and I just think that it's genius in itself, and it kind of mirrors the learning curve, right? Like when you first start doing things, it just takes a lot of effort until you get the practice in. And so the Inception, where I see with the Inception and the M-braining is that generally in Inception, then we would be pretty much heart-led. And it is something that we really advocate in M-braining, is that we make sure that whatever we decide we're going to do is going to match our values and has enough importance in our heart for our relationships and connections, and even to ourselves, that it's a high enough goal that it's personal, and we make sure our heart is really in it. And we have a lot of feelings around that. And at that point, if you don't yet go down and kind of check in, you know, with your head and your gut, sometimes you move forward without all three pieces of you, all three parts of you wanting the same goal. where I see embraining would be amazing with this is that in the inception that we also go in and just take a look at, what would your head need to really be around this? And, and perhaps, you might need to change your identity just a little bit to really be thinking about, well, do I really have the tools that I need to make the change that I want to make? Like perhaps you need to do a little research, or perhaps you need to find a trainer or something that's going to do that to help you build up the identity along the way. But where I really see it coming in is that, the inevitable deception happens when we kind of work at things, and, the brains and the body, they don't want to work hard for change, right? The body really wants to stay stable and kind of do all the habits, because then it doesn't have to exert any more energy. And so when we get to that moment of deception, where it's like we really are realizing it's going to take some work to make this happen, then taking a really good, solid look at what the roadblocks are and what the instances at deception, by asking your heart, is your heart still on board? What does your heart need? What does your gut need? What does your head need? And really getting clear about what might be missing. It might just be that you need to, use your head to change your schedule a little bit to make it work. Or you might need to, write yourself a couple of affirmations on your bathroom mirror so that you remember why you're doing it sometimes, and just answering the values and your biggest, truest want of your heart. Or it might just be that, you find you got a workout buddy, and so you got to take some action from your gut and getting a workout buddy to get it going. But in deception, I see that it would be a beautiful process to do, to help us keep going along that pathway so that we do get to transformation, and that those neural pathways have enough time to grow so that they are getting easier and easier and stronger, so that then it becomes what we want to see is the old pathways not being used enough, where you quit or don't go or fall back, and that this one gets long enough, used enough, strong enough, so that it takes you along the pathway to really solidly make that internal biological shift that then ontologically changes your identity. And pretty soon it just becomes who you are, and you really honestly can't find yourself doing it the old way anymore, because it's simply not you anymore. And now it's going to take more work to go back and do it the old way, because we have a whole different neural pathway and network built up inside. And so really understanding it from biological, physical, emotional, social, all the different areas that embraining brings to it, I think will really amplify the ability of people to make change through all of the truths and programs. And I'm really excited to see it all work together.
Well, and this is one of the really cool things, is that we have a program coming up, and it is called Big Picture. And we are actually utilizing Laura Masters right here and her partner in crime, Amy Mercer, who have been doing this embraining for many years together. And they're going to be co-leading a Big Picture program. It's a 6-week Big Picture. And so if you are interested in jumping in with us, we would love to have you. And I know Denise is going to put a link in the comments. And for those of you watching on replay, you'll get a link sent in an email as well when you register for it. So, and we'll post it on our GU pages as well. So we've got that. And I also want to throw into the background behind me is Lake Okanagan here in Penticton, British Columbia. And we, on that little triangle just over my right shoulder right there, that's called Naramata. That's the village in which Denise and I live, and we are the Leads at Growth U. And we are hosting, we are bringing up Amy and Laura to run an embraining certified coach, an ICF. So you actually can become a certified coach, and you can utilize this to help your friends, your family. You can use it for your coaching business if you're already a life coach, but you're not certified and you want to become certified. This is a great opportunity to come to a beautiful area of the world and hang out with some amazing people. And I want to say, I think we've got 9 people right now, and we've got room for a few more. So if this is something that listening to Laura speak about this and you're like, man, I want to learn more about this, what a great way to come up and utilize, your time and value. And it is over American Thanksgiving weekend, and we will be doing a American Thanksgiving meal in Canada. That'll be our second one, because Canada celebrates a little bit earlier, but we, being a dual citizen, I grew up in Los Angeles, so I usually celebrate 2 a year anyways. So we will be doing a little Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving in Canada, what do you think? And reach out to us, and we will get you set up for that. And yeah, Laura, anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would really love to add that I think that this is going to be such an incredible and rare opportunity for people who really want just a little bit more in their life, or want to shift a little something in their life, or want to meet a big goal, or want to really just help, plan a beautiful vision for their family or their future, that they could start with picture on November 6th, which is going to be just a few weeks. Well, no, it's actually a week away now, isn't it?
It is a week away.
Yeah, and we're going to help you deepen all of that work into your heart, into your gut, and really help you ask the right questions so that we get all of you on board, and all three of those guys, working together to meet that. And that in the middle of it, if you choose, you could come and get this 4-day amazing training with all of us in the Okanagan, and have all of those tools just really, really significantly placed into your body, and begin the ontological change for this. And then finish out the program and have just an amazing start to 2024. And I don't know if this is ever going to happen again. So I just think, but be able to do both of those within the next 6 weeks, and really, turbocharge all the things that you want and your heart desires, and the ability to be really the core of strength for your own self, and clarity, and just absolutely, authentically yourself, and living your life beautifully, and bringing a lot of people along with you, that you shouldn't miss doing the big picture starting November 6th, and then come play with us in Naramata for a few days in the end of November. So would love to see everybody there.
Absolutely. And on top of that, after the 4 days of like full integration here, there's a 12-week follow-up integration that you'll also be involved with. So it's not just the 4 days, but you're going to get a full 3 months out of that, including those 4 days here in Naramata in person. And then we will all obviously stay in contact for those next 12 weeks, and be able to really connect.
Yeah,
so
you're wonderful.
Laura, thank you so much for your time. It's so appreciated. Can't wait to see you in person again, and looking forward to it. So yeah, if anybody watches this on replay, you have any questions, please reach out to Denise or myself or Laura, and we will connect you up, and we'll get you ready for Big Picture and possibly the MBIT coaching program.
So would love to see it at either one, or hopefully both.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, have a fantastic rest of your week, Laura. We will see you on a call, sure, at some point in the next couple of days. And to everybody else, have a fantastic week. And we look forward to seeing you in a program or on a call sometime within our Growth U community. All right. Lots of love.
Great. Thanks for having me. Bye.